Great to have you with us this morning. Lots of other things kicking around that we haven't got to. So Ross Lyon is on the Footy Classified every Wednesday, right?
Yep.
So it's too late for us, but I got up this morning and watched because I wanted to work out. I wanted to know why he pulled out of that process, right? Why he pulled out of the job against of the Carlton coaching job. He was in it up to his ears. He'd had the 45-minute conversation with Luke Sayers, and then he rang him the next day and said, "I'm out." Now you make some assumptions. You go, okay, we maybe didn't want to go through whatever. Did we get the answer last night?
No, we didn't. And I wonder, you and I have been in that position where we've sat there alongside somebody who ends up becoming part of the story, right? And so how hard do you push them in those circumstances?
Here's what he said. This is as best we could get. He told us he didn't regret pulling out of the race, but then didn't kind of tell us why. Let's have a listen.
I feel settled. I certainly have no regrets on anything. Even I haven't got both sides of the fence fully. The only one that has everything is Luke Sayers, because he has conversations with me, his position and his board's position. So,
do you feel let down by Luke Sayers?
No, not at all. Not
do
at
you
all.
feel
I
let
have
down
no
by
regrets.
Carlton?
No, not whatsoever. I knew when I put my hand up what would be coming over the fence. And there's a lot of noise. Everyone's got an opinion. All the media commentators and, my ego was stroked. I didn't want to go through a process. None of that's completely accurate, but I'll take what I know with me.
Well, which part of that is completely accurate, do you think?
So that's what you... and we're not... When he says that the commentators said, I was getting my ego stroked and I didn't want to go through the process, and then he says it's not completely accurate, you go, well, what part of it was? Surely, what part of that statement was? It was nice to have your ego stroked, and we've all been in that situation, and that's not a damning indictment on anyone. Everyone's got an ego, or you didn't want to go through the process. It's not completely accurate. Which one was accurate?
Do you now know why he pulled out of the Carlton job?
No, I don't. He says, what did he say here? I've got it written down. I made no assumptions about the job, which is fine. I absolutely get it. But he says even Luke Sayers doesn't really know. In terms of, even I haven't got both sides of the fence fully.
Right.
What's that mean?
Well, he doesn't know.
Yeah.
Is that what that means? He doesn't know.
Maybe that's what we're led to believe. It was just so confusing a process that even he still doesn't know what was going on.
Okay, can we don't really know why he decided to pull out, okay? Mm-hmm. But the other part about what happened last night was that Caro said that Brad Scott holds the key now to the Carlton job. He has not been interviewed formally. She says he has not been interviewed formally. But Gil McLachlan, because we know that Brad Scott's in for the AFL job, right? It's down to two. Yep. He and Josh Marnie. The AFL is still considering whether or not they appoint one person or that split that job into two different jobs and appoint two, which might mean that Brad Scott and Josh Marnie end up at the AFL, right? But Caro also said that Gil McLachlan wouldn't stand in the way of Brad Scott if he decided that he wanted to go for the Carlton job.
Yeah, well...
So what's your read on that?
Well, how can he stand in his way? How can Gil McLachlan stand in Brad Scott's way of going for the job? Unless if Brad wants the AFL job, then he doesn't go for the Carlton job. So it's got nothing to do with Gil. Was he going to turn around to Gil and say, Gil, can you tell me whether I got the job? Because I want to then go for the Carlton job. Is that what she's saying? I don't know. I don't understand any of that process. All I know is that Ross pulled out, who seemed to be the ideal candidate, who's got a record that looked like it was tailor-made for Carlton, but he pulls out because I think Luke Sayers, in his own mind, had found his man. The board turned around to Luke Sayers and said, no, that's not how this works. We're going through a long 30 to 40-day process or whatever it may be, and that's where we sit. So how can you shoehorn Brad Scott in if you weren't prepared to shoehorn Ross Lyon in?
Hey, further to that, we've been trying to get somebody on from the Gold Coast Suns since last week, for a week. Tony Cochrane, their chairman, their president, or also Mark Evans, the CEO. From the perspective, we haven't heard anything from the Gold Coast Suns backing their coach. So Caro went with this a week ago.
We have, haven't we?
No, we haven't. No, not in the last week. Oh, I haven't. Have they said that any speculation around us or anybody else trying to shoehorn Al Clarkson into the job is incorrect? Have they said that, have they?
Well,
I've missed it if they have.
I won't say definitively, but I was of the opinion. I thought I read something or saw something in the last day or two that said exactly that we're backing our man in.
And there's no truth. And there's no truth to the AFL trying to get Al Clarkson to be the coach here in 2023.
No, it wasn't. Didn't go into that detail, but it was more along the lines of that. Yes, they had spoken to Alistair Clarkson. I think Mark Evans had admitted to making a call to come up and be like the mentor, if you like. Did I read that, or did I might have dreamt that? Maybe I dreamt.
I haven't read that anywhere. I have not read that anywhere in the recent.
Okay, so your point
times.
is that they're
they've got to back their bloke, don't they?
Yeah, I thought they had. Maybe someone can tell.
Well,
us
you want them to come out strongly and say that is not the case. We are, and I know they said this a while ago, but there's been other things that have been said in the short term that have superseded that view of him, Al Clarkson becoming all that type of thing. You would want if you're Stuart Junior sitting there. I mean, you want those assurances, wouldn't you?
Okay. Well, our producers are surely Ollie's chasing that right now, Wisp, to see whether I dreamt that or, in fact, whether I read it. Right. This is the one that fascinates me, and I know I've got to get to the news headlines, and then on the other side, you can answer the question for me. Jordan Dawson was as highly rated as most midfield players towards, in the back half of the year. He moved up to the wing. His left foot became a weapon. He played beautiful footy. Now, I understand there's salary cap issues. We heard that through the whole Luke Parker negotiation, that they're tight, and surely you cannot afford to lose him. Both Adelaide clubs are into him, which they would be. He's a South Australian boy, but he's been on the list. He's blossomed into the player that you probably hoped. He's in a game where kicking is becoming increasingly important. He's as good on his left boot as any. You just cannot let this bloke go. Tim, I want to ask you on the other side of the news headlines whether or not they can afford to lose that man, Jordan Dawson. Let's get some headlines first. Mark Harvey's not too far away. Going to talk about Essendon's unbelievable come-from-behind 43-point win in the prelim of 1993 against the Adelaide Crows. We'll see something so dramatic over this weekend of prelims.
And Mark Evans told News Corp on Monday, I didn't read this, Stu is our coach for the next year. He's contracted through to next season. We think he's plenty of upside as a coach. He's got great relationships with our playing group and our leadership group, and he sees the game really well. I would really like to talk to Mark Evans, though, about the fact that, are they aware of the fact that the CEO, as has been reported, of the competition, is actively trying to recruit Al Clarkson to be the coach in 23, as Carol Wilson has reported. Yeah,
but that article, which it did go on to say the club did contact Clarkson about a mentoring or senior leadership role, but it believes Stu's got enough upside to continue the club's improvement. So they've established contact with Clarko without the urgings of the AFL CEO, but that's where it sits at the moment.
Hey, fair enough. And your question about Jordan Dawson, I think what happens is there's like a checklist and there's a priority of whose contracts do we need to get done first. Luke Parker was clearly number one. Now, they've re-signed him for 4 years on that 4-year deal. I think probably what they did is they extended the deal. They probably wanted to do a 3-year deal. Maybe they couldn't come up with the money, so they gave him a 4-year deal, which is great for them and great for him. He's obviously happy with that. I would think now they're prioritising and saying, okay, which of those players that remain unsigned is now our next most important priority? And of those players, I would think that it would be Jordan Dawson.
So do I. In fact, I would even go as far as to say it would have run concurrently. Dylan Stevens is the one then you think might, so in terms of your order of priority, so this is the top 5 or 6 pick who hasn't been able to play much footy, had injuries and all that sort of stuff, but he was a beautiful top-age under-18 player. He's now being recruited or has been talked about as Essendon of having eyes on him, so maybe he's the one that might get spat out at the end. I don't know how bad the salary cap issue is there, but I would have thought that certainly Dawson and Stevens' upside would see you walking over broken glass to keep them at your footy club.
And yesterday the story broke that Melbourne had also made a presentation to Adam Chera. I think Adam Chera may be his management as well. How do they do it if they get this deal done? Okay, you don't go down the track of actually presenting to somebody if you don't believe that you can get the deal done. Their first pick in the draft at the end of this year is 33. So what do you think might be their thinking behind this, how they get it done?
They'd have to maybe go into future picks. That would be one option. They may have players on their list that they think they can offload for picks. I don't know. I suppose the first point is trying to get him to commit. Once you get him to commit, then you go about doing the deal. That's all I know about that at the moment.
Do you think Luke Jackson becomes a part of that at all in any way? It has, and I only put that out there because it's been reported, okay?
Yeah.
So this is what Sam McClure has said. The Fremantle people, his sources there at Fremantle have said that would get the deal done. A straight swap effectively for Luke Jackson and Adam Cerra.
No, I get that. That's just a nonsense. Well, no, I'm not saying that Sam's reporting is a nonsense, but that's exactly what Freo would say. That's your first starting point. When you're going to lose a young player to a club, it's just if he was to go to, let's say he was going to go to Port Adelaide, you go, okay, yep, I want Butters. I mean, you go, if we're going to lose one of ours, I'll just highlight the highest, most talented young kid in your group and use that as a starting point. That's an ambit claim. Melbourne wouldn't be trading Luke Jackson. They would know that. But
would that not be a fair trade?
Not in any way, shape or form. Not in any way, in my eyes. Someone else might make the case if you reckon that's a fair trade. I wouldn't have thought so. The all-new Kia Niro electric SUV range available as a hybrid, plug-in hybrid and full electric.